Rich and I are gonna kind of talk about what our experience has been over the last, 14 years? Ish of working in production. Slide.
We've done a lot of stuff.
This is awesome.
Basically, today we're not going to teach you things like how you should frame a shot. We're going to teach you instead traits that we think that we have or that we've learned that make for good producers.
We're not really going to teach you.
We're going to share, and you might learn by accident. The production is one of those jobs where some people think like, well, I can't code, I can't design, but I really like working with people, and I'm helpful, and I have ideas, so maybe I can be a producer. And we're here to either confirm that notion for you or dissuade you of that based on our experience at places like Friendly's, where I was a dishwasher.
I think like most people, I feel like know us probably from the video game stuff, but we have done other stuff in the past. Like I was doing stuff for 6 years before I made the mistake to come to San Francisco and
it's a good mistake.
Work in video games. So that being said, Rich, well, what is a producer?
So the challenge here is going to be to just not read the bullet points, right? That's
That's why I'm looking at you, making eye contact.
So a producer is somebody trying to get something done. That's trying to make it as vague as possible, because Vinny's been a video producer. I made the transition 6 or 7 years ago from video production to video game production, and there's a lot to learn from both. There's a lot of crossover. So basically, there's something that is going to be done. As the producer, you know as much about it as possible. And if it's okay if some things are unknown, but you know as much of it as possible, and it's just always in your head and cramming out all the thoughts about people and eating and stuff. And then it's your job to help deliver that, or as much of that as possible. And that's a key part. My other challenge today is to not say that's a keynote. That's a key point.
That's a key point. That's a good point.
Every point in the slide is a key point. If you come away with only one key point from this, it should be any of our key points.
It's the ones that fade on. It's the ones that we spent the time animating.
Yes.
So like a producer is basically, in my mind, it's anybody who has to make anything, right? So like everybody in this room has probably made something at some point, and we're probably going to gear more towards working with teams, but some of the stuff will apply if you're doing it on your own. Working with a team is when things get really hard, because you have to manage, you have to kind of be aware of other people's time. When you're doing it by yourself, I don't know, you're your own worst enemy, but like whatever, you just ruined your own time, right?
Yeah, maybe. Actually, yeah, we can talk about that when it shows up.
So, Rich and I have kind of like come through this with two different styles of production.
We got to pick each other's pictures, by the way.
Yeah. So
thank you, Vinny.
When I think of how Rich produces something and working with him, he's like, he'll talk to you and like you're kind of just hanging out, and before you know it, you've produced something, right? Like you don't even know what you're doing, you're just kind of hanging out, you're having a good time, you're laughing, and by the end of the day, he's like, good job, guy, you produced it.
Yep, produced.
I'm a little different.
Vinny's a little, still Paul Newman, but yeah, there might be a little wreckage along the way. Old time hockey.
Yeah, I get a little bloody. I like to kind of put everything out there, for better or worse. It gets a little crazy. We kind of go a little too far and have to wheel it back a little bit. But it's all in the service of trying to do something fun and appropriate.
You can get there, so no matter what your style is, you can deliver similar results, because there is a comment. This is a video that I made 1 million years ago for 38 Studios. Thank you. Yeah, Rick Luddy. And this comment was popped on it on YouTube. This is like the best thing. Vinny had to have been the editor on this.
I wasn't.
Vinny was not. I was the editor on it.
Yeah.
So despite our different styles, we still produce similar content. So there's a lot of different ways you can be a producer, is what we're saying, and you can still come up with the same result.
So production, you gotta love it. And you gotta love it came to me, I heard this when we were doing something at GameSpot years ago. I think it was, we were producing GDC, but like producing the like presentation for GDC. So it was all the slides, the winner, the best of, and like all this stuff for GDC, and we were way in over our head, right? So we were running run-throughs up until like 12 o'clock at night the day before the show happened, and we just were not getting there technically. And I was like, let's do it again. It's like a 45-minute show, and I just heard from the back, one of the people in the back was just a sigh of kind of recognition of, you gotta love it! So you kind of do. It's going to be a lot of work.
You, especially when you're working with a team, and if you're helping people ask that team to do things, you better be alongside them, you better be there before they show up, and you better be there after they leave. And you also have to be, producer doesn't mean you get to be the gal or guy who goes on Giant Bomb and sits down on the couch and plays the game.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Generally that person is there because they're expendable to the people who are doing the work to make the game.
That's right.
Yeah, or they said, all right, fine, someone has to do it, I'll do it so you guys can actually keep making the game.
Yeah, and it's not, like, yeah, I think what Rich is saying, it's not that glamorous, right? Like, you're not really going to be the one who's going to walk away and everybody's going to know, like, hey, you spent 48 hours doing this. The guy who was on camera for 10 minutes is the guy I want to go shake his hand, and you might be sitting in the back being like, I'm dying. I haven't slept in 2 days. So you gotta find what's rewarding for you. So, you know, it's not really for everyone. And you are, especially in video production, I'm sure this transitions over into games as well. You're gonna be the first one in there. You are really gonna be the guy who has to set up, I mean, these guys over here probably know. You gotta set everything up, you gotta close everything down. You're laying out the cables, you're wrapping up the cables. When everybody is done and they're clapping hands and they're going off for drinks, you're sitting there coiling up cables. So I'm not trying to say it's a terrible job.
No, it's just know that going in. And also, the last point's big for video games. Like, I work with amazingly talented engineers and designers and writers at Disruptive Gaming right now, and the same was at 38 Studios, just hundreds of people who are all really good, and we are making amazing games. And all I can do, basically, I can like say something out loud that might influence things slightly, but the people who are actually typing on keyboards or using a Wacom tablet to make stuff, like, that's not me, that's all them.
You mean a Wacom?
Wait, I call it
A
Wacom.
Wacom?
Whatever you want to call it.
So what is the goal?
What is the goal?
The goal is to look like Superman here.
Look at those abs.
Yeah.
How do you have time to do that?
He's not a producer.
Nope. Definitely not.
You want to work with a bunch of people who are just dedicated to the product, right? You want an engaged team that's gonna, you know, be with you for the most part on your vision, because you're the one who's got to tell them, hey, you know, we're gonna be doing this for 12 hours a day. Are you cool with that?
Yes. I am cool with that.
Oh, good. All right, we're gonna be doing this for the next 45 minutes. Are you cool with that?
I am cool with that.
All right, you're an engaged
yes.
team. And you obviously want to let them know what the expectations are, but from an informed place, right? Like, you can't just be like, Drew, I expect you to work for the next 16 hours, and I'm gonna go get some food and see you later, right? Yeah, that's called Game of the Year. So you kind of have to be the one who's like, you know, here's where we're trying to get. Here, are you cool with that? Are we all signed on? And let's hope this doesn't go to poo-poo.
Definitely. Already with the poo-poo.
Yeah,
I don't want to jump ahead to that part.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. There'll be more poo-poo. The point about people helping people do what they're good at as much as possible speaks well to any project. Video games, I know a lot of people get paid a lot of money to make video games, and for every minute that they are not doing the thing that they are really good at and why you hired them in the first place, that hurts the game, it hurts your company, it slows you down. So if you are, imagine how many people here have been in like a 2-hour meeting where they felt like they could have been out in 5 minutes and would have known just as much. So when you're a producer, and it's weird that this was almost my favorite thing to do at 38 Studios, was I would walk the floor a lot. And on a good day, everything's humming, no one even picks their heads up, and I was just like, well, look at all these talented people, they're just cruising, this is awesome. But then if I was lucky, I'd get down to the end of the row and there's a meeting room and there are people in it. And if I've known they've been in there for more than like 30 minutes, I would just walk in. I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? And then generally, if a meeting's gone that long, it's because there are more than likely 2 people who can't agree on a thing. And everyone else is just sitting there rolling their eyes. So I just walk in and it's like, all right, so this is what you're doing? Okay, you and you, let's figure this out. Everyone else, get out of here. You are free. So, yeah. And that, yeah, meeting assassin, I had kind of rep for it. It was fun, but I did it in like the cool Paul Newman way, not the bloody Paul Newman way.
Not to just like beat up the people who are talking to
No,
them?
because they're all good people. They're just, you know, when people are passionately talking about stuff, it's easy to get caught up in it and not realize who else is around you. So, yeah, just get out of here. You guys, yeah, let's figure this out. Everyone else go, get back to work.
And obviously the goal is to have something awesome or cool be made at the end. I mean, that is really going to be the most rewarding part.
Definitely.
Not the goal.
There it is.
There's the boom. So you don't want something slow. You don't want to have a lot of wasted effort.
Waste. I get it.
And really like a poor production. Like a production is an ingest of like raw materials, and you know this metaphor is really going to hit home. So you're taking in everything good, right? And as it moves through production, right? All the good stuff is getting leached out because, you know, everybody's got a good idea, it's getting picked apart, there's no vision, and by the end, there's your poo-poo.
My Crohn's disease loves this metaphor, by the way. I'm just thinking about it, yeah.
Oh, it's home.
Yeah.
You know, obviously cliche, you cannot polish a turd. I have tried. It is extremely messy. And
you get a lot of practice when you're a dad.
Yeah. Not the
a lot of material.
You're polishing?
Tried.
Okay. And so now we're going to talk about kind of how you get there. And we just kind of found the coolest picture we could for this.
Yep.
I didn't really have that much more to say.
That's sick.
So I'll preface this also by saying that these are, I think, what Rich and I thought of as best practices as we go along, but don't think by any means that this happens all the time in my life. This is like posture. You kind of know when you're doing it incorrectly, and then you realize, like, or you look at Drew and you say, I should be sitting up straighter.
Drew has amazing posture. Do people here know Drew? Yes, I thought so. Incredibly jealous of your posture.
So yeah, sometimes it takes somebody else to do something to realize you are doing it. You're forgetting what you should be doing.
Can't even do it for this long.
Yeah, no. Rich said this side was too negative.
Yes.
I thought this was a great picture.
Nope.
So I just found sunflowers.
Much better produced.
Yeah. So with all that being said about this stuff not applying to me all the time, being positive, being happy, and believing in what you're doing is really important, and it's actually probably one of the hardest things to do when, you know, things go off the rails, right? Like, you are going to be the one that hopefully people are going to look to. You know, it happens in video production all the time. I'm sure it happens in games. Who's coordinating this, right? You're asking people to do all these different crazy things. They might not know what each other is doing, but they're looking to you to be like, you know what the fuck is going on, right? Like,
yes.
Because we're just kind of sweating and doing all this stuff over here. So if you're kind of shrugging your shoulders and being like, I'm freaking out, I don't know what's happening, everybody else has now lost confidence in the project.
There's no more rock.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are lucky enough to be working in any industry or field where it's something that you enjoy doing, it should be fun, and it should be fun for the people that are around you. And as a producer's job, you know, just remember that. Like, you know, we're making video games. We're making videos. This is all right. So, you know, at the end of the day, if it's a bad day, all you're doing is you're making a bad video game. You're making a bad video. It's still awesome.
Yeah, and for video in particular, and this will come up a little bit later, but like, that stuff reflects back. I mean, you're turning on a camera and you're recording somebody, so like, you want somebody to be happy, positive, energetic. I mean, hopefully that's what you're going for. You can't really go negative all the time, but you want somebody at their best. And if you're yelling at them or you're frustrated, and that's happening minutes before you're shooting, that stuff can just leach right into the content. And I'm sure it happens in every area of production. Like, you know, I'm sure bad games happen because of fights and bad decisions, but in video particularly, like, that stuff, I've seen it happen. It's just sour faces, people want to get out of there, and it's no good. And then you kind of got to put on the smiley face and be like, it's awesome, guys, like, we're going to do a great job. But also, that being said, you kind of also have to be honest, and if stuff is falling apart, you know, you have to let people know, especially crew and people who are working with you. And if I use words like talent and crew, talent are the guys that are on the camera, crew are the people that are behind it.
But everyone's talented.
Everybody's talented.
I'm really happy to be working with them, and I believe in them.
That's very positive. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have to be honest, and as soon as you start hiding stuff or masking stuff, it's the shortest way to go to complete doom in a project. Like, if you're gonna miss your deadline, you need to let people know. Like, if you are not gonna hit something and some guy's waiting, and I say, Rich, how long is that gonna take?
About 8 hours.
Okay, and it takes you 10 hours. I hate you. I hate you so much. Why weren't you just honest with me?
So I was tempted to cram in a whole bunch of stuff about Scrum and Agile training in this, and I think we're just kind of touching it, and if anyone wants to talk more about it, I'll try to talk about it afterwards, but that honesty thing is huge, and it's not just you being honest, you need to encourage everyone to be honest. Like, if you are a member of this team, if we are working together, that means either I or someone at some point believed in you and your ability to be a part of this team, and therefore I trust your opinion on your work because you're an expert or you're trying to be an expert at your work. So if I come to you and say, hey, how's that thing that you said would take a day? And you're like, well, I started on it and it's gonna take me 3 days. I have to, cool, all right, now we know, and we're gonna change some things around. So that honesty thing, it's good if you're honest. It's best if everybody is honest. And because like, secrets and distrust, they just blow a whole project. So like, if you got to be open about it, and you got to be comfortable being open about things.
And this happens all the time at Giant Bomb. Like, not that people are lying to each other, which they are, but no, this happens all the time. Like, in terms of like, people don't like committing to things because they don't want to let people down. But when we need to schedule stuff, like Drew and I, who are the only ones there kind of in the production end of it, like, we just need to know. So if we go and we ask like Brad or Jeff, like, are you going to be good to shoot this thing at 12 o'clock? And they say, I don't know, maybe. It's like, are you going to be good to shoot it at 1 o'clock?
Let's ask Brad. Brad, you good to go?
Yeah, Brad, you going to be good at 1? Yeah. So like, it's like just getting down a time is like one of the most important things. And making sure that everybody's like, okay, cool, just give me the latest time, like 2 o'clock. That's great, we'll put it on the calendar. That way everybody's happy.
Yep.
And kind of ending with, again, don't get too negative and make sure that everybody's still having a good time.
We're only like technically 11 minutes into our panel.
Technically?
It's 10:40 Pacific time, but
this is great. We're making better
we have
time.
50 more minutes to go. Should we slow down, or we keep the
No,
pace?
I think this pace is good.
All right, good. Yep, we're like a third of the way through the slides. I like this. Just checking. Know everybody and know everything.
This is a good rich one.
I love this part because this, I feel, is the easiest thing that makes me feel like I'm actually contributing something to the team. Because if everyone is cruising on their part of a project, they hopefully should have no time to worry about everything else and no time to even think about it. But someone has to do that, and that's the producer's job. So, so when someone turns to you and says, oh, how's that thing going with the animation team? Like, I know. Or at worst, I know who I go ask and then come back and tell you about it at a time that makes sense. You get to feel kind of, you're informed. It's a rare thing to be so informed, and it's kind of a privilege. So like, making a video game is a big, complicated thing, and only a couple of you get to actually know how every single part of it's going at all times. And it makes you feel like you're part of the crew.
And for the video stuff, like when we've worked on bigger teams, this is kind of essential and the most efficient way to kind of get the best product you can. So like when we did, when was it? The Big Live show when we first came over to CBS, right? It was great to be back with guys I had worked with before and kind of knew that entire crew because I had worked with them previously. And so, I mean, these names will mean nothing to you, but they mean a lot to us. I know Werner's going to make everything look pretty. I know Dan Mahorik's going to be able to stream everything. I know Jan's going to be able to turn an S-video cable into a fucking SDI cable. And then,
oh, man.
Yeah. And he'll tell you how he did it. And these are people you can just drop stuff on and then walk away, right? And it's knowing what their strong points are and like what they can do that really lets you focus on what you can do. So it even drills down to, hey, know the security guy, know his name, know the person who can turn outlets on and off in the building, know the person who can turn the AC up in the building. Like, these are hardworking dudes that are there to do their job and do it well. And when you are at a big company, like let's just say ABC, it's hard to get stuff done, and these are people that can back channel you in there, right? If you know the guy working the security desk, and you're gonna have 40 drunk people come in to the building late night, let him know. If you know him, you have a relationship with him, he'll be like, all right, cool, like I got it, don't worry about it. You should have sent me an email 2 weeks ago and cleared all this stuff, but I got your back. these are people that will help you out. Everybody is trying to do a good job, and just like Rich said, being informed and knowing everybody, it's kind of a cool thing.
It's totally cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also extremely helpful when you're working on a big project. If you are one of those people that's really heads down on something, if you think about it too hard, you can get really worried about everybody else and what they're working on, and that can be paralyzing. So if someone says, man, we really need this thing, we got to get this thing, is this coming down the pipe? And you're like, yeah, it is. Like, really? Like, yeah, let me show you. And you walk over and like, here's the list, here's the person, there's all stuff going on. Like, oh, that's really awesome. I totally forgot why I even asked you that. I'm just going to go back to work. All right, have five. Produced.
Yeah, I think it also takes a very, like, I'm a very curious person. I know Rich is a very curious person, and I've seen him do it, and I've done it before. Like, just talking to people about what they're doing just informs you, like gives you a better picture, and just listen. Don't just say, like, hey, what's going on, and then check your phone. Like, find out what they're doing, and make a list.
Yeah, another thing it helps if you want to be a producer is to love making lists. So I have all of my notebooks from my time at GameSpot. All of my notebooks from 38 Studios are now property of the state of Rhode Island. I'm sure they're keeping them. They totally didn't throw them away immediately. But I was really proud of myself. At some point, I drew a Sparco steering wheel on my Sparco notebook. Thank you. But the list here on the right is actually the shot list for the GameSpotting Live 100th episode, where Greg Kasavin talks about 100 years of history of GameSpot. And that was it. That's all the notes that were made for that entire project right there. On that, like, there might have been a second page. Compare that to, bam, the product backlog for the systems crew at 38 Studios, which Rick Luddy was a part of. You've seen this before, Rick. So this is I believe I counted, a 1,600 item spreadsheet that was for only 50 people out of the 300 people working on Project Copernicus. And it was my job to make sure this list was accurate and updated all the time. And you can't do that by yourself. At one point, we had a list like this for the entire company, and then we split it up by basically the floors of the buildings, and producers got to own their own kind. But basically, so this list was available at any time for anyone in the entire company to look at, divided up by month, divided up by priority. That's what the column on the left there is about. Number one, I guess, was our highest priority. I forget. Relative sizes, that's another part of agile estimation, but basically it was a huge list of all the stuff we had to do, and your job was to make sure that the stuff at the top was what we needed to do. And that was a lot of conversations, it was a lot of meetings, and you're always striving to make sure those meetings are efficient as possible, and that your list, and when people are flipping out like, oh man, what's going on? Like, what's my example here? Oh, you're gonna implement a tokenized tooltip system that will display the current effectiveness of abilities and items. Output is an ability in game that displays variable effects and values.
Oh, sure.
You know, that.
Oh, got
SDI cable.
And believe it or not, we actually keep calendars at Giant Bomb. We do actually try and plan that stuff out. We try our best. Sometimes it's pretty tough. Stuff shuffles around and moves around, but we do try and do a full week and see what we can fit in. And where are the gaps that we have. And for me personally, keeping a list, time just kind of just disappears, right? Like you get into the office, you film like two things, and then all of a sudden, you know, somebody's doing something else, somebody's doing something else, and it's like 6, 7 o'clock, and time is just gone. And I hate that. I hate looking at the end of my day and feeling like, where did everything go? So every once in a while when I feel like that, I literally just keep a timesheet on a piece of paper of what I'm doing, even if it's as little as like, talk to Brad, like had a discussion about with Brad about Dark Souls 2 for like a half hour. Like that stuff gets written down to see, so I can look back and be like, yeah, no, I totally had to spend 4 hours fixing the compression machine. And that's where the time went. That's why we couldn't do this shoot. And that stuff adds up. And when you look at it, you can try and manage that stuff and make a little more sense of it.
Also, a list is a really great spot to park ideas. So like, oh, we should do that. Yeah, we should do that. Let's put it on the backlog. I actually have a backlog for my new house. And it doesn't drive my wife crazy because I'm a good producer at home. But it's like, hey, there's that floorboard squeaky. We should totally fix that. We totally should. That's going at the bottom of the list because we're not going to do that in like 15 years. But it's on the list, so it makes you feel a little better.
This next one I feel like is probably, for me, the biggest and the most important, and it's really probably where a lot of productions just fall apart, right? This is know your limits and know your scale. So when we started at Giant Bomb, it was a very small team, when I knew immediately that we weren't going to be able to produce what we were producing at GameSpot. It just was not going to happen. And this is where things like the Quick Look came from, and this is where things where it's just like, hey, it's just video with guys talking over it. If you know your scale from the beginning, you can kind of stretch and you can push in the right ways without breaking anything. But if you are a little too ambitious at the top, it's just going to lead to a bad product by the end. And prioritizing and making sure that you're getting the things you can do well out of the way leads you to a little bit of freedom down the line.
Definitely. It's a big thing to be able to accept, like, all right, well, when you're in a creative industry, it's really easy to come up with a lot of ideas. Just, yeah, we should do that, that's a really good idea, that's great. And you have to be like, all right, so let's get those on our list. We probably won't do all of them. What's the one that we want to do first? Let's try that, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I get really excited when we lock into a production, right? Like when we do something big, like Game of the Year or Big Live show, as soon as we're in the go state of it is when I kind of just turn on. I'm like, okay, if you're not with me or against me, we're moving. The production train is pulling out of the station. Everybody better get off the tracks, or else you're going to get hit. And one of my biggest problems is, you got to remember that not everyone is you. Everyone has their own thing going on. So if you're like, all right, we started production, man, that means we're doing 18-hour days and we're going for 2 weeks straight. Let's woo!
No.
I'm
not doing that.
Yeah. That's kind of the best way to drive everything into the ground. Even though you're cool with it or you think your idea is great and like, we're going to do this right, buddy. No, don't do it. And to that effect, don't be a crazy person. And I've got a great example of this, unfortunately.
I have a good one too, but that's owned by the state of Rhode Island.
When we did our Game of the Year and we did those like TV shows, I think it was that 2013? Yeah. It was such a great idea that was maybe a little too ambitious for us, right? So we were going to do a TV show spoof a day. And here's a list of the stuff we kind of wrote down, and these are the locations, right? So we've got like 5 locations, maybe 6 locations for this shoot. That should have been huge red flags, right? That's like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And then here's the production schedule for it, right? And you can see week 1 is just planning and getting all the stuff in. Week 2 is collecting all the gameplay footage, doing the top 10 filming, recording like 4,000 hours of podcasts we do.
They're long shows.
And then also squeezed in there is filming those 5 shows somewhere between December 10th and December 14th.
You guys are, yeah.
Like,
yep.
Like that should have just been, yeah. And then add on top of that, we're like, hey, let's get a Steadicam. Who's used a Steadicam here before? Nobody. It just, it should never have happened. And I love the product we got, and I think it was great, but boy, oh boy, Drew, you can back me up on this one. That was a nightmare. That was a really tough one. And
did you stop or did you just keep going?
We kept going until we passed out in the office and hit publish. I think we wound up making a few compromises by the end, but that's why the next year we didn't do the video top 10 list. We had to make choices and we had to make compromises. So we did at least learn a little something that, if we're not getting more resources, this is what we can do and not bring out knives or break bottles.
Speaking of learning, quick heat check. Are folks learning stuff from this? Is this new information? You guys doing good? All right, good. All right, good, thank you, good. Just checking. We weren't sure. Like, we knew we could have stuff to talk about, and we just want to make sure that, good. All right, let's keep going. We got more. It's good. This will be good.
It's good pace.
Yeah, we're doing all right. The green bar is it's a good spot. I like it. So, inspiring trust and leaving nothing unsaid. One great thing, many great things, a lot of great points in this presentation. is that being a producer where you're expected to know everything, you're allowed to ask anything. And that includes, does that keep flickering? Is that what's going on back there? I keep catching it. Sorry about that, everyone. Asking dumb questions is great. When you're in one of those meetings that just kind of ends and no one's quite sure while you're there, and you're just like, man, someone should really just speak up and make sure that this is a good meeting. That's your job. You're the producer. You're like, all right, so what was the output of this meeting? Okay, Danny's gonna make a video, Drew's gonna work on his posture because he's slouching a little bit, and Brad's gonna go do a quick look. Like, we got it. And then when you say that and you get it written down and said out loud, better still, written on a whiteboard. I could do a whole presentation about how amazing whiteboards are. People look at that and they're like, and if things went well, they're agreeing to it. But what will very likely happen is like, oh, I thought we said this. And then another conversation comes out of that and everyone's on the same page. And that all just started just because someone said, wait, what? Yeah. Or like, let's say an engineer gives you a long explanation about a tokenized tooltip system and you get to say like, what is that? Because it's not your job to know, it's your job for the people who know what it is to get it done. So you're asking dumb questions, that's great. And while you're asking dumb questions, you might get questions back, you're answering them with honesty.
Yeah, and I have asked so many dumb questions, and some are just genuinely dumb to no effect. They're just a dumb question, like,
as long as you're consistent with them.
How does the moon not crash into the earth, like constantly?
The Hyperion Corporation, I think, is involved.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, some, like Rich said, are like since we got to CBSI, there are so many acronyms. There's so many people doing so many businessy things that are just looking for their slim verticals or whatever they want to do. And
is it a lean forward or lean backwards proposition?
I have no idea, but there's a lot of bandwidth. So like I have no idea what they're talking about a lot, and I do have to kind of clarify. And I have found the best way to make anybody sit up and perk up is to say, like Rich said, all right, so what are you doing? Danny, you doing this? Drew, you doing this? Brad, you doing this? I'm going to follow up with you on Monday and make sure you got that done. Because I have had way too many meetings where it is one meeting, we get all that stuff done. The next meeting is just going over that stuff again and just rehashing that. We need a meeting assassin.
The only thing that's more fun than being a meeting assassin in person is being a meeting assassin like before the meeting happens. Like, hey, Vinny, you booked that meeting. Do we need that?
No, probably not.
All right, cool. What are you trying to get out of it? Let's find out. We'll go
trying to figure out this moon thing.
Let's keep those people working. Yeah. Let's try Wikipedia.
Look out for everybody. I think, like I said before, knowing everybody, knowing what everybody can do, and everybody kind of hopefully having a focal point to you to be somebody that is, if not running the thing, at least knowing what's going on. Make sure nobody's killing themselves. Make sure nobody is stuck in a corner doing something that is either inefficient or going to be bad for the product as a whole. So like sometimes somebody will just, lock themselves in a room and be like, I'm just going to work on this all the time. You guys go eat, go have fun. Make sure, I'm not saying you got to break that person out. I used to hate it when people would be like, turn your computer off, we're all going to the movies today. Yeah. And be like, no, I got a lot of work to do. You don't understand. I understand it's fun movie day for everybody who sits at a desk and does
it's supposed to be really hot.
Spreadsheets, but if I don't do this today, I've got to come in on the weekend and do it. So like, I want to do it now. So I'm not saying break those people out and grab them and say, we're coming, but check in, see how everybody's doing. Be like, it's awesome. All right, cool. We'll see you later.
Another fun thing about looking out for everybody, and this ties into the last point as well, is looking out for everybody can also mean protecting them from other people. Sometimes marketing. Basically, there's generally, if you built the team, you built your cadence, you built your process, everyone knows how things work and they hum. And where it can go wrong is when someone who's not necessarily part of that team every day just kind of wanders in and they're trying to get something like, I need something from this team. Like, hey, we need, what was the example? Sizzle video.
Yeah.
We need a sizzle video made. Can we get the sizzle video made?
You guys make video? Make a sizzle reel.
Exactly. So, like, if you are walking the floor and you're seeing people working on stuff and you see someone with a button-down shirt that is not a producer, talking to a programmer, and you're like, man, that programmer is making $150,000 a year and they're working on, like, the hardest problem that anyone can tackle in this game, and you're asking them to fill out an HR form, or you're asking them like, how hard is it to make this web page? Like, you get in there and you're like, hey, let's talk. What are you looking for? What do you need? Okay, and then when you take them, guide them away, you bring them to a wall where all those scary giant spreadsheets are, where like the stuff you're working on for the month was listed, and you're like, okay, so what do you need? You need a sizzle video, you called it, excellent. All right, so here's our schedule right now, and let's figure out how that's gonna fit. Who asked you to do this? Yeah. So you think you asked for it, like, what, they're like, you need it tomorrow? Like, when do you really need it by? July? Okay. Now let's walk you down the hall further. We can totally do that. We're gonna put it on our backlog, item 1601. Yeah. And when your boss tells me it's more important, we'll bump it up the list to like number 3 maybe because there'll come a point like people in the speaking of aspiring trust and trusting your coworkers, like that marketing person might not know your processes, but someone who you work with, who you trusted them to be part of the team. So while their request might be totally outlandish, like to them it's important, and it's just a matter of working together to figure out how it fits in. Like at some point, like, yes, it is more important for an artist to capture screenshots than it is to like make sure that one more creature gets done. It's just the nature of video games. And what makes everyone happy is when they're informed and they know it's coming.
There is Tim Tracy over at GameSpot used to, in his office, he was a producer, have a magic wand with a giant star and streamers on the end. And when people like that would walk out of his office, he'd grab the wand and go, "Video magic!" Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand just how long some of that stuff takes, and that was his great way of just releasing those demons.
We made some good sizzle videos.
Everybody has made a good sizzle video.
Yeah.
Everybody has made a sizzle video. God, I have made some sizzle video. They don't sizzle.
Seems like a word. I just need Jeff like sitting there on a mic saying like sizzle.
Yeah. Honesty. Answer questions with honesty, because you may be asking people to do ridiculous things. And for Giant Bomb, this has been especially true. Thank God I've worked with people that trust me for the most part, at least they seem to, because we have done some incredibly dumb things.
Saw that panel last night.
Incredibly dumb.
Trust me, Dave Lang, I'm gonna break this fake bottle over your head. No, it's really a fake bottle.
It'll be great.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. I'll grab the right one.
That was a well-produced panel.
It was.
So you can look at this shot, and this was taken on the set of our Game of the Year 20XX, and I mean this is what it looks like. It is, Jeff, can you put on this basically dress and this headset and hold this wand and just kind of give me like fighting poses, and what are you gonna do with it? Like, I've got an idea, and just trust me on it. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be like an FMV game. I don't really know everything right now, but we'll figure it out. We'll fix it in post. And so, like, asking people to do that is scary. Like these are people whose, especially on Giant Bomb, it's a very personality-driven site. These are people. This is their job. They need to get up there. They need to make sure that if they are gonna be goofed on, it's going to be in the right way, right? And there's a wrong way to tear somebody down. So having the trust of the people you work with is extremely important, especially when you're asking them to do ridiculous things. You need to also make sure everybody understands that they are a superstar that you're working with.
I've kind of hinted at this one a little bit, where basically it's like you may not have been involved with bringing this person on the team, but at some point someone thought this person was really cool, and people should know that, and people should know that you respect their abilities, you think they're awesome, and the thing they're working on is the most important thing that the company needs right now from them, and that goes back to pulling it from informed decisions.
Yeah, and I've been on the other end of this, right? Like I have been in positions where why am I even here if you're not going to talk to me and ask me to do this? Like when Rich was saying you're going to go around people and do go to your engineer and ask them to do a sizzle reel or pull screenshots or something like that. And it's like, if you don't trust that I've got your back to figure that stuff out on my own as a producer, like why am I even here? Like why am I doing this? So I like to put a lot of trust into people, and it is something that for the producers that I've worked with, there's a problem if you don't respect them and don't trust what they're going to do. You're going to be babysitting people. You're going to be kind of leaning over the shoulder. You're going to have to screen their edits. You're going to have to do all this stuff, and it's no good. And they won't have the agency in their product to do a good job either, right? So you need to be confident that that person you hired is somebody who is going to be able to get that thing done on their own and be really happy with the product they put out, and hopefully it's not just their day job and they're just looking to check out. And let them know that these guys are superstars.
And let them do their job.
And let them do their job. That's why they're there.
Get out of their way. Let them do their job. Get other people out of the way. I'm going to pull in a question.
Oh, sure.
I actually remember to check this. The first question comes from Twitter, which says, error while loading tweets. Please tap to retry. But we also got one from the Turbo C. I'm guessing that's not your real name. Where are you? Excellent. Hey, what's up? The question is, how do you handle a team where some talented or not members aren't necessarily committed to a project and are avoiding or phoning in work? The ultimate solution is to let them go, which happens a lot. But that's a failure of the company's part. You have to be comfortable doing it, but hopefully you don't do that. The first thing to do is, if you're a big enough company, pull in their lead. As a producer, you're not someone's boss, but you're an identifier and solver of problems. So if there's someone dragging their feet, it's not on you necessarily. It could be, depends on how the structure is, but it shouldn't be your job to pull them from their funk. It's their boss's job, and it's your job to tell their boss about it. If you're a smaller team, a lot about making production easy is about making sure you have the right team, and the next solution is basically a one-on-one, open, honest conversation. Hey, I think you're dragging your feet. What's going on? And maybe they have something going on at home. Maybe they don't want to be on that project. And if they're still a value to the company, you you swap them out. You find another way to do things. And if they're not a value to the company, then you find a way to go your separate ways. There's a lot of turnover.
So I've worked at big companies. Well, CBS is definitely the biggest I've worked at, in small companies. And other methods I have seen are promote that person to the position where they can do the least damage. So
That's not a good solution.
They just get moved up, and then that person is out of your department anymore.
Don't do that.
And then eventually something happens, and that person is making too much money. Fired. Yeah. All valid strategies.
Yeah, that is a valid strategy. Like, get them out of the way. If you can't get rid of them, get them out of the way. It's like, and just stop having them be your problem. If they're slowing the team down, either fix it or just get them out of the way, and whichever is the best way possible.
So kind of sitting on the everyone is a superstar or a superstar.
You said ABC earlier. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, that was on purpose.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
Maybe you were saying CBS, so it seems like you got uncomfortable with it.
Talented people make things seem easy, and it might not be apparent at first, especially if you're kind of like just getting into production and video production. People on camera seem like they might have the easiest job in the world, right? It's like you're sitting there, you're hauling around 40 pounds of gear all day, you're doing all this stuff, and that guy just shows up with his pen and his notebook, gets on camera, does his thing.
Kills it,
has a drink with the guy later, you're wrapping up your cables, you're like, that's the freaking easiest job in the world. It's usually not. And that's good to know. And I've been on camera, Drew's been on camera, and I picked the greatest screenshots I could for this. It's
David Ellis thinks this is hilarious. He's just trying not to laugh right now.
It's not. It is actually really hard, and I think I learned more in the 2 minutes that I was on camera than in 7 years of production, like what it takes to be on the other end of that camera. I remember grabbing that microphone, going to do this interview, and turning over to the person I was interviewing, did not remember his name at all. He was looking back at me, being like, you're the man in charge, you've got this, and then having to do fake listening eyes while I'm thinking of the next question to ask, and realizing like, this sucks, this is not easy at all. And trying to just laugh and keep it going. Yeah, just like that, exactly. And I remember when we'd go to events, and Ryan used to do this all the time. Even though I didn't need it, he would always ask the guy before we did the interview, hey, can you say and spell your name for the camera, please? I mean, that's really considerate of him. Like, we got to do lower thirds, and, That's a really nice thing. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Later realized that he didn't know the name of the guy either. He needed to get that guy to say and spell his name and say his position so he could do that interview and say, hey, can you say and spell your name? Rich Gallup. Thanks. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, Rich, how's it going?
It's going well.
Oh, great.
Thanks for having me.
So that's the end of the interview. That's it. What's the name of your game? When's it coming out?
It's called Star Trek Timelines. We don't have a release date yet.
Oh, okay, thanks. And out. Yeah, respect your personalities, respect what they're doing. Like, stuff that may look easy, it's usually not. And that's the whole thing Rich said about hopefully you're hiring really good people that aren't phoning it in, right? So, talk to people, figure out what they're doing. I hate it when people come to me and think a video is going to take 2 seconds because, hey, videos on the internet, people do it on YouTube all the time. Super easy, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Why isn't this panel being filmed right now? You guys are producers.
It's super easy.
Super easy.
Yeah.
And working with a lot of people over the years, you realize you'll be able to see who's doing well, who's really talented, and really who's not, who's phoning it in. But walking a mile in somebody's shoes really is the best way, especially in video, just being on camera. I mean, this probably better than I do. It's hard. It's not easy.
It was easier when I did it because it was 2000 in Stone Age, so
yeah.
The quality bar was a lot lower.
Who was watching video?
Right? Actually, a lot of people were, surprisingly, kind of scarily. Thanks for coming. Be flexible. Things are going to change. Things will always change. That's just what happens. And you should be prepared for that. You should have process for that. You got to know to be able to drop everything when the heat comes around the corner. It's true. And a good idea that you had can often turn out to not be a good idea. And you have to be like, all right, that was a good idea. We thought it was a good idea. It wasn't, maybe, or it's just not the right time for it. You know what we should do? Let's put it back on the list, and we'll do the next thing.
Yeah, and when we record a video, we record a quick look, and maybe a quick look is the easiest thing in the world. We literally have 4 different ways we're recording that video because 3 of them are usually going to fail. 1 of them is going to go out of sync. So we've got 4 machines in parallel just recording different sources of that same video. And having backup plans, even for your backup plans, becomes really important, especially when you can only do something once. That's why I hate doing live events. I hate doing E3 because you blow it. You can't just get people back in the studio and do it. And part of producing is knowing that things are going to go wrong, not expecting them, knowing they're going to go wrong.
Could go wrong.
They're going to go wrong. And then... because there's so much out of your control, right? You're depending on somebody else to have an audio drop, to have and they do. These guys are great, by the way. A little round of applause.
We gave him one. Give him another one? Yeah. All right.
It's a production panel.
Someone said, how do you make someone feel like a superstar without pandering? That's from Jed Brown. That seemed like pandering.
That's pandering?
Might have been. I don't know. I'd say do it once a day, maybe.
These guys are superstars.
Exactly. It's if you're open and honest, you'll do it in a way that's believable. Where's Jed? Thank you. Hey, thanks for the question, Jed. It's about doing it in a way that fits.
That's good. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, look behind you.
What? Oh, hey, who did that?
That's crazy. See, superstars, ladies and gentlemen.
You did that? That's awesome.
See?
All right, now they get something to do. That's cool. Yeah.
And like Rich said, knowing when to walk away from a good idea, that's a tough one. That's a really hard one, and that can really bite you in the ass.
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
Just got to do it. Once you've done it, you get better at it.
Luckily, I don't have that many good ideas, so it's not
no,
really
you have a lot of good ideas.
It's
where you better have a lot of ideas. You're working in a creative field.
No,
you're not gonna be able to do all of them.
When I first started at GameSpot, I think it was my first week. My first assignment was to go to this I Am 8-Bit book release party, right?
Yep. Tim Schafer was there. It was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big, huge deal. It was all right. It was
a block away.
I was super nervous. It was my first assignment for them. It was the first time I was holding a camera for them. I had to film the whole thing. It was on DV tape. Got back to the office. Rich was like, how'd it go? It's like, oh, it went great. And started loading in the tape. The entire tape was eaten. The whole thing got chewed up. And I had to be like, Mr. Gallup, I done messed up. Here's your tape. I don't know what we're going to do. I can go back. I can go out and do it. And you're like, whatever. Do you have the book? And that's where, I don't know if you guys have seen this video. He said, have you seen Reading Rainbow? I was like, yeah, I think I've seen that.
Here's a script. Make this.
And then we made this.
Hi, everyone. Earlier this week, right here in our own neighborhood in San Francisco, there was a release party for a new book called I Am 8-Bit. It's a wonderful compilation of artwork inspired by classic video games of the 1980s, written by John Gibson with a foreword by the omnipresent Chuck Klosterman. It's arguably a must-have for video game fans, but you don't have to take my word for it.
Hi, my name is Matt Roy, and I'm here today to tell you about the greatest art book inspired by 1980s video games ever made. I Am 8-Bit was written by John M. Gibson and features 70 artists worth of paintings and sculpture filling more than 150 pages. Did you play video games in the 1980s? Do you like cool art? Then this book is for you.
There you go. You can find that on YouTube searching for "Do you like cool art?"
It was great. It was definitely, like I said, it was my first week there, and that inspired confidence in me.
Yeah.
And
we hired you because you were cool.
Yeah, and but I got cooler, and then
We thought you could be cool. Saw potential.
Yeah.
You were cool.
And then it was a lot of fun to do, and it actually made the rest of my time there really enjoyable.
Definitely. I mean, and the audience doesn't necessarily care about process, except for you guys. You care about process. That's great. Thank you for being curious about it. But in general, it's about what the end product is. Whether if you have 300 people working on a glorious MMO that costs millions of dollars that no one will ever get to play, or you can stay on this one, staying on make a 4-week farting cat game. One of these two games you can play right now. And one of them is a bunch of trailers and screenshots and a tale of tragedy that we're not going to go too far into.
You saying I can play Farcat right now?
You can.
Where do I get Farcat?
On the App Store, 99 cents. I'm not going to show Farcat. I'll show Game of Thrones Ascent and Star Trek Timeline selling blue in the face, but I'm not going to show Farcat. Farcat was therapy. Farcat was, we'd been in that company, a lot of us have been in that company for 5 years and we never shipped anything. What's it feel like to ship a game? We forget. Oh, it's really cool. We made a doofy trailer. It's fun. There are a lot of lessons I learned from my time at 38 Studios. I don't really feel like going too far into it, but the biggest one was, I'd say, going back to knowing your scale and scope and knowing your runway. We did not try making a game that we could ship with our internal resources, and it's very important to ship it, and doing so in a way, and all the other slides that we said before this.
And for us, we had to kind of early on figure out what the hell we were going to do, right? Like, we were not going to go compete against the monolithic game sites out there. We just didn't have the resources to do it. And that it's a website video that we shot was initially a shoot that was supposed to be Jeff and I sitting up there and literally walking through the site. Like, we were going to get up there and say, you can come to the site, and what else can you do, Jeff? Well, you can come to the site, and you can come look at these things. It's got a wiki, and you can do these things. And about 5 seconds into shooting it, turned into a disaster. I had this now raw footage that was a disaster. I edited it into more of a disaster, and then sat there and said, what do we put this up as? I don't know what we're doing here anymore. Put a bumper on it that said video thing, and then said ship it. And
perfect.
Kind of set the tone for what we were going to go doing forward. And the big video thing with Jeff eating his Choco Taco. We were sitting there. I would not hit enter to FTP that. I made Jeff hit the send button on that. Because I said we cannot do this. We're going to shut down.
Yep.
The bosses will come look at what we did.
Done.
And he did it. And then again, just get it done and figure it out later. Pick up the pieces later.
I have a great question from the audience that ties in well with this. It's from AshevilleRecords.com. DA Mafia, hashtag Raw, 420 Mafia, hashtag Out Now, I Bang, 420 Mafia, hashtag Guitars, hashtag Drums with a Z, hashtag Rock, hashtag Hip Hop, hashtag MP3, hashtag Produced by hashtag Mike H at 8townrecords.com.
Great. I think that guy's still here.
Yeah. Where are you, AshevilleRecords.com? Yeah. Thank you for your question.
How much time do we have left?
We have about 12 minutes.
Okay, I think if you guys want to start lining up, we're kind of getting near the end here. We're getting near the look back, remember, and review.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend who has an album cover that is a rear view mirror.
Perfect.
It's not a reading tour though.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to know to, whenever you get something done or whenever it makes sense, review, remember what you did, write it down, learn from it, improve, constant improvement.
Like I said with that Game of the Year stuff, it was, I think it really is a great product. I'm super proud of the work everybody did on it, but at the end of the day, it was at the expense of just burning out. Like, it was really, really tough to get done. And so when we have to make the choice to do that stuff in the future, weighing like, are you gonna be okay for the 6 months after this project? Or let's not do video top 10 videos, you know? Or like, are we all gonna just be miserable?
And write it down so when you come back to it, it's
Make
there.
your list.
Yep.
And you know, that being said, have fun and make something super awesome because it's gonna be a lot of work and you gotta be proud of it. And I feel like whenever I work with a new producer or somebody who is just kind of getting into it, I say, don't do anything you wouldn't want to put on your reel. Like, do something you're gonna be proud of. We'll give you the time to do it. You're going to be asked to do garbage. It's going to happen. You're going to do that dumb sizzle reel. But, you know, when we were at Giant Bomb, one of the first things we did was made sure that the producer's name was tied to that video, right? This is made by this person. You can't put this up anonymously. I don't want garbage on this site. And luckily, I've worked with extremely hardworking and talented people. And they've all been very proud of the work they've done. So make something super awesome and ship it.
Yes, and make sure if you leave a website before you get to ship a cartoon about time travelers that you leave someone behind who can ship it for you.
I pushed the send button on that.
Thank you.
one.
I was like, hey, Vinny, I know everything's weird over there. Before you guys leave, could someone just post time trotters? Could someone just do that?
This is when Rich was his most Paul Newman. This is when he was
done.
making a cartoon and being like, where's Rich Gallup for like the last year? He's making a cartoon.
That was my Thursday. No, it wasn't. That wasn't Thursday. That was on the spot. It was my Monday stuff. Monday afternoons, I got to make time trotters.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Question.
Let's do it.
Up
Who
in
are you,
front.
sir? Welcome to the show.
My name's David Cray. I was
Hey.
just wondering, so you talked about like a lot of projects that kind of went south, but you always somehow salvaged it back. At what point do you just say, you know, this is, we can't do anything with this, we need to start over, we need to come at this from a different angle?
For me personally, that we have, I've got a hard drive, I won't say full, but there are shots in there. We shot a Grand Theft Auto 4 video review with Jeff in front of the green screen. I think it was 4, and boy, that thing turned out to be a mess. I couldn't key it out, it was garbage, and it just went in the bin. I shot an interview, I think, with some guys from Gamecock way back when. That's sitting in a sealed vault somewhere. You'll know when it's time to walk away, but sometimes, you know, if you're working for a client or something like that, you can't walk away. Like, you've got to make it work, and that's where kind of all the pre-production comes into that stuff.
And also, and if you can't walk away, and it is for someone else, there's a whole nother session about just being open and honest with them. Like, hey, here's where we're at. We need more time, and maybe they'll make the decision for you that you get to walk away.
It can be very hard when somebody else is paying for it, and like you just gotta kind of know what you're getting into and cut that off before you get to the disaster you're holding in your hands, right? Yeah, it's hard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your question. We'll put your name in for the wallet drawing.
How's it going? My name's Chris. Just wondering, do you guys have any tips for working on a startup keeping deadlines? A lot of people wouldn't necessarily have the time because they're all volunteering their time, not getting paid anything.
Yes, as someone who had their own startup where we weren't sure what kind of effort we were getting out of people, it's about being honest about what you're trying to get done. And I mean, it's every slide that we just said. The shortest version is you need to figure out who's committed to your project as quickly as possible and get them as committed as possible. And if that's not a possibility, scope it back. Like, if you hey, if we all worked 40 hours of it this week, we'd make something awesome, and people are like, maybe I can give you half a day. Like, guess what? Cut your scope by 90%, and figure out what is the best thing you can make in that time. If you're doing a startup, everyone has to be committed, full on committed. The people who are driving it the most, like, it's okay to get some contractors or some part-time stuff to help, but the people who are making things move, like, they gotta be on board. And if they're not on board, get rid of them. Or not get rid of them, they're probably your friends. Don't get rid of them. Move on without them. So for Summer Camp Studios, for example, that was the studios it started actually with 30 people from 38 studios all being at my boss's apartment. And we're saying, all right, who can be committed to this? And 10 people said, maybe I can. And that 10 people quickly became 6. And that 6 quickly became me and my boss. And we were trying to figure out, like, there's this silly word, pivot, trying to figure out what you can do. And we're like, all right, we can afford to scrape to get enough money to give, because no one could work with us because of the bind that 38 Studios put us in. We needed money. And, fortunately, I'm supported by, my wife could support me for a while, so I didn't need money, but we could find one person to work with us, and we could pay them a salary. Who is that one person who can work with us, and what can we do with them? So we pitched a programmer on, hey, let's make Doofy Farting Cat games, and he just couldn't do it. He couldn't handle the pressure of it. And then actually I pitched Ben Coelho on, all right, so you're not a programmer, but I know you can make Ben Coelho, who I do Dad Strength with. He's now a cinematics artist on Guild Wars 2 at ArenaNet. He did all the art and animation for Time Trotters. So I was like, all right, you can make some Doofy stuff. I can figure out how to do some light programming. Like maybe we make some weird interactive comic book stuff. Let's try doing that. And then it's not video games, but it can be related to video games. So it's about, short answer for a long answer, find out what you can do and be honest with it about it and try doing that. And don't count on effort or millions of dollars that you don't have.
Thanks.
We had a business guy who came downstairs and said, you can't do 1 video a week, I need 10. And that's how we started doing more stuff.
Nope.
Otherwise, we were going to run out of money.
Yeah, so stop editing and just start.
Just put it up.
Do it live.
Ship it.
Yep, ship it. Hello.
Hey guys, my name's Steven. Vinny, Dave Lang's pin game proved that you're a very popular member of the site.
I see a lot of empty chairs in this room for someone who's so popular.
Yeah, I think it was rigged.
How do you balance being an on-camera personality with something very production intensive like the Big Live Show?
It's hard. For me, I've felt like, I love making stuff, right? And that's always my priority. And when push comes to shove, I want that production to go well. I'd rather not be in front of the camera. I'd rather be behind it, making sure that stuff goes well. For a long time, I was just pulling double duty. It was, record the bombcast and then go back downstairs and edit and do work until 10 o'clock at night.
No idea what that's like.
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard to do, but at the end of the day, I still, being able to do stuff on camera is a great opportunity and it's a lot of fun. But I always look at it as like a bonus part of my job, and I'm a producer first and kind of goof off on camera second.
And if your company has a policy where if you work past like 7:30, they'll let you expense a cab ride home, that helps make it a little easier.
What's that like?
You guys GameSpot had that?
Yeah, right.
Every Tuesday I did it. Every Tuesday I finished the hotspot at like 10 o'clock at night, and then this is my cab night. I didn't do it every night. 7 o'clock is ridiculous. My internal was like 9:30, I think. If I'm here after 9:30, you're totally paying for my ride home.
It's hard. It's hard.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you. We have 3 minutes. Can we get through these 3 questions in 3 minutes?
Hey, my name's Mark. How do you go about prioritizing like new skill sets or applications to learn? Like I think I remember you saying during the Big Live show, like figuring out the streaming stuff was like trial by fire for the most part. And how do you make that decision to prioritize like stuff on the side to like learn a new program or just dive into it in the middle of the project?
Well, like I said before, I think it takes a very curious person to kind of get into this line of work. There are a couple of ways to solve a problem. You can throw people at it, you can throw technology at it, right? So we constantly have to be on the lookout for what is the fastest way, most efficient way to get this stuff done. We don't have the opportunity to throw people at it, so we're usually looking for shortcuts with technology. So streaming and compression is something that can actually save you a lot of time in the long run. When we do quick looks, we have 2 methods. One is it captures and compresses to an MP4 immediately. So Drew and I just have to trim the heads and tails of it and put it up. Everything is in there, the bumper. The other way is a raw file with all the tracks and everything separate. That usually takes about 4 hours to go up, right? So if there's any way to optimize and use technology, we are immediately looking at it. And luckily, one of the best things about coming to CBS Interactive is working with a bunch of other people who have to do a bunch of other stuff, right? So I'm constantly just walking around other studios being like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? What's the best way to do this? I'm not sitting there searching for like, what's new in video, checking out magazines. It is literally being curious, asking people what they're working on. Like we're at a point right now where we should move over to Premiere. We're still on Final Cut 7, right? Final Cut 7 is not optimized for 64-bit platforms. We're sticking on there because it's what we know and it's what our workflow is, but we should move over to Premiere. That's an example of we're gonna have to learn all new shortcuts.
Another example is if you don't have a job, find out what people are looking for in hiring and learn that. Yep. Just check job postings. Thank you.
Thanks.
1 minute for 2 questions. You went long on that one. Let's try to tighten up for this one.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, my name is Sid. Do you remember when you were like intern level and when you made
Yes.
the jump from friendlies and the roller rink over to production? What were some indications that made you like really decide on that? Or do you have any stories from Chappelle's show or like any other guy? I remember you said that.
Rich, why don't you take this one? I will answer your question after that young lady's question behind you because that story might take a bit, and we'll see.
So I'm sorry. The question is.
Do you remember your transition from intern to full-time producer?
Yes, very much so, because I got paid a lot more money. Job didn't change at all. Basically, an intern, when someone gets hired as an intern, you're looking for someone who can basically do the job for cheap, and it's a trial run to see if they're worth giving a lot more money. So I literally did the exact same thing I did as an intern when I became a producer at GameSpot from day one. When I was an intern for Ken Burns, I did that for a summer. My job was finding small single scraps of 16 millimeter film. I didn't get to find out that if I would get to stop doing that if they hired me on full time though. But basically, if you're looking for an indication when you get to make that jump, always ask, how am I doing? What can I do better? Like, what's the path to full time? Ask that a lot and they'll pay you faster.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Good luck. Last question, hello.
Hi. I've been in web content production for the last 7 years, first for Shakespearean scholars and now for yoga teachers.
Cool.
Yeah, a little bit of a bizarre transition, but and so one of the things I've had beaten into my head is the importance of having success metrics. So I would like to know for your quick looks, how do you define what is a successful quick look? What's your, what do you go by?
So I define a successful quick look is by how many we got done that day. Was it a worthwhile piece of content, right? Like, is this something that benefits the audience? Are we getting enough done in the day to serve the audience, right? That's my personal metric, right? Like, are we still serving, providing a service to the audience, right? Quick looks are very easy to kind of showcase video very quickly. If you do like 2 of them a week, it kind of loses its flavor. If you do 100 of them a week, maybe you're missing out on something else. So kind of finding that balance for me is important and making sure we hit the games people are interested in. Obviously, they want metrics like numbers, how many people view it, how many ads are rolling in front of it. Those are important. It's a business. We need to look at that stuff. And quick looks are for us, a very efficient way to put up video very quickly. Something like a trip can take somebody out of the production loop for a week or 2, right? That's maybe like 15 quick looks that person could have produced in that time. If you add up the number of views somebody gets on a video that took them a week versus the number of quick looks or views you'd get on 10 quick looks, you'd quickly see it like this, right, with the quick looks. We're at a crossroads now where, quick looks are very easy for us, but it's not a glamorous piece of content. We don't want to get locked into doing that stuff. That's why we're kind of trying to push our boundaries on resources. But they still provide a service, and we've moved away from video reviews because we've kind of heard from a lot of people that quick looks serve that purpose. So in short, the question is
too late to be short.
Is it providing a useful service to the audience? And the long answer is we still have to look at views and kind of compare that against other content we're doing.
Are we making money? Did we have fun making it? And are we proud of the content? Those are the 3 big questions. Hopefully yes to all of them.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank all you guys very much.
you.
It's been a lot of fun. I hope you learned stuff. We'll be next door. You can ask us more questions about things. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Bill and Sound Guy. Thank you, all enforcers. Beautiful people.
Thank you.
Happy PAX.